they are selling baby products in Singapore, diaper, wet wipes, and these people are foreigners. They are not Singaporeans. This is one thing. Then there is another thing, is that this time round our birth rate was at 1.05. Okay, our fertility rate was at 1.05, and the government say that the reason why people are not reproducing is because it's the tiger year and the Chinese are not reproducing. It's like so racist as a Chinese, and with a 5-month-old baby over here, I feel so offended. Like, so you're saying that Chinese cannot give birth during tiger year? What is this reason? So are you telling me that the non-Chinese give birth during the tiger year? Are you trying to tell me that if it's not a tiger year like this year, there will be a lot of people reproducing? No, people are not reproducing because of the high cost of living. So why blame it on the Chinese? Why blame it on the tiger year? And not only that, at the beginning of last year, just 1 year ago, the Prime Minister was the one who came and said, oh, it's the year of the tiger. We will draw all the babies into Singapore. And in the end, they came out with this 8% GST. Who still want to reproduce?
But you know something, can I add on? You know, Pritam Singh said in Parliament that all foreigners should be given a test, I think, in English, right? So that they attain basic proficiency in English. The PAP disagree, right? Disagree. I'm telling you, I agree with Pritam on this point. If you do not do that, all right, very soon you are going to have all these different enclaves in Singapore. Yeah, people who do not know how to speak English, who do not even try to learn the basics. I know of many foreigners from mainland China who today can't speak a word of English. Yeah, in Singapore they can get by because, you know, Mandarin is widely used, okay? But my friends, there is a danger. And I will never forget a lesson I learned when I was a student in England in the mid-80s. You know who was the Prime Minister of England, of Britain in the mid-80s? It was Margaret Thatcher, right? And she had this problem. In a city just south of Manchester called Bradford, and Bradford is mainly inhabited by people from the Indian subcontinent, South Asians. They started demanding that their schools should be taught in Urdu. Yeah? They wanted to have their own cultural classes. You know what, Margaret? I'll never forget this. Margaret Thatcher stood up at one Conservative Party conference and said, "You have come to my country. You jolly well learn to speak my language. I am not going to cater to you to have our schools teach in Urdu. All right? You are not going to turn Bradford into some South Asian city." Yeah? I'm telling you, there is a need for some form of a common language. You know, in China, they have 56 different ethnic groups, right? What we call Mandarin in Singapore, Huayi, the Chinese call Putonghua. And what is the literal translation of Putonghua? The common language. Why do they call that? Because the 56 different ethnicities, they all speak different languages. You can be Hokkien, you can be Teochew, Hakka, but what is the common language that binds you together? It is Putonghua. And I think there is a need to do that in Singapore.
Lim Tian, I'm going to ask you the final question. And it's a follow-up question on what you said about what goes on in Parliament, because I think that is very significant. Why do you think no MP has ever asked or is asking in Parliament now why 1.4 million full-time employed resident workers had hardly any increase or negative increase in pay in the last 21 years? When I say negative increase in pay, means every year the pay go down in real terms. When I say hardly any increase, I'm talking about an increase of not more than 0.8% per annum in 21 years. So, I think it's a very significant question. Why do you think no MP has asked?
I do not know why. I will certainly ask it. I think the problem, if you ask me, with most of the MPs is this. And you know, they all have a certain mindset that Singapore has done well. That is the narrative that the PAP has spun, okay? After SG50 and all that, from third world to first, that was the narrative spun by Lee Kuan Yew. And so no one actually dares to challenge that narrative. But actually at the very base of that is a false narrative. When you are telling me that 1.4 million workers have hardly had any increase in their real wages, what does that mean? It means that real wages have stagnated, all right? And why have real wages stagnated? It is because of globalization. Globalization allowed manufacturing to be outsourced, all right? Yeah? Globalization, why do you think Trump won in 2016? Because he connected with Americans and he convinced them that the Chinese were stealing their jobs. Jobs that formerly belonged to Americans were being outsourced to China. It's not just an American phenomenon, all right? It is a worldwide phenomenon in those societies that believe in globalization. I am glad that as a result of COVID, everyone now recognizes that globalization is at an end. Not even the PAP now utters a word about globalization. Have you noticed that? But you know something? If I am in Parliament, I would be at the heels of the PAP every single day, asking them to justify why a minister can be earning so much when 1.4 million workers, Singapore workers, have not enjoyed any appreciable increase in real wages.
Hui Hui, I'm not going to ask you a final question. Because normally whatever I ask you, you also don't answer. You are like the TikTok CEO who was glued in the US Congress for 5 hours. Okay? Never answer the question. So I let you have your last say. Say whatever you want.
I think we will definitely have a follow-up video, and therefore people should stay tuned for the next video. And for the government who is reading this or watching this, please read Annex A, which is the authoritarian rule of law. If you have no time to read that, stop reading people's Facebook. Why are you always on people's Facebook? And so what if you read people's Facebook? It's not as if that you are going to realize that people are saying that they are suffering from the 8% GST, they are suffering from the high cost of living, and you are going to do something about it. No, you are not going to do anything except for making Singaporeans' life harder. And what you should be doing is to tell more truth so that people will read SPH, so that people will stop inflating numbers instead of watching what we are doing right now.